Now, last night at the dinner, Donald Trump was not treated too kindly, and granted, he kind of turned it into a friar's roast of Mrs. Clinton, but the elite leftists in the audience did not exactly appreciate some of the jokes. Let's get another sampling of how it happened.
Thank you, Al. Wow. That was good. This is a hell of a dinner.
Well, we apologize. Apparently, we saw a very nice walk to the podium, but not exactly the pungent comments we had expected. So we're reserving those comments to our guests. Joining me here on the anchor desk, my good friend Glen Downs, former congressional chief of staff for Congressman Walter B. Jones, Jr. of North Carolina, and from Newsmax Washington today, Mark Smith. He's an attorney, senior fellow in law and public policy at King's College in New York City, also a New York Times best-selling author. We appreciate you both making time today. Glen, since you are no stranger to the rough and tumble of politics, right. We know that the Al Smith dinner, the instructions used to be singe, don't burn. It's as if both candidates pulled out lighter fluid and a book of matches on each other last night.
Well, let's be honest. Neither one is going to be categorized as a new Shecky Green. So
well, yeah, Shecky, he's the pinnacle of comedy entertainment through the years.
So neither one is known for their joke telling. So and in this environment, obviously the rhetoric and the heat has been turned up all across the board in the campaign season this time, and of course last night was no exception. But obviously this was a crowd. This is the epicenter of the establishment, Lower Manhattan, New York City, the left-wing establishment of all. So he's not going to get the greatest reception there under most circumstances.
Mark Smith, I can remember back in the days when Rudy Giuliani was going to challenge Hillary Clinton for the Senate. Remember that? And Rudy, who had been successful running for mayor of New York, would go through borough by borough and explain why he would not carry New York City, even though he'd been a successful mayor in a statewide campaign in New York. Donald Trump is a New Yorker, but man, the limousine liberals stick with their own kind up there.
Look, I live in New York and work in New York, and I've been to the Al Smith dinner on multiple occasions. And the truth is, it is the quintessential New York elite, which means you have all the prominent media organizations are well represented. All of Wall Street's there. I mean, these are the elite of the elite who think that Chuck Schumer is really like middle of the road on the issues. And that is the kind of crowd that Donald Trump faced. And in fairness, I thought Donald did quite nicely because I think Donald was speaking to the crowd, but more importantly, Donald was speaking to the people at home on TV because this was televised. And I think his real audience was, of course, the American people. He saw this as an opportunity to talk about things that he wanted to talk about and did it. And I thought his speech was quite nice and quite entertaining.
Well, it was certainly in its own way provocative. For example, during the dinner, Trump says, hey, Hillary's said she has one face for being in public, another face for private, and here she is pretending or acting like she doesn't hate Catholics. He was booed over that, and I got to tell you, for Mrs. Clinton, it was a bit of an awkward moment as she was there sitting next to Cardinal Dolan, and of course, Cardinal Dolan just a few days ago called on Mrs. Clinton to apologize for her staffers' disparaging remarks about Catholics. So the bottom line here, Glen Downs, with about 15 seconds, do you agree that this was intended not for that audience gathered at the dinner, but for a nationwide television audience?
Well, absolutely. Obviously, you're not going to be able to persuade that crowd. They're already locked pretty far in.
Yeah, and we are locked into a hard break here, but Glen and Mark, stick around. We'll have more with you and your phone calls as we continue here on America Talks Live.
Well, CNN, and this is true, named the winner of the debate hours before the debate began, and they say it was Excedrin for Their tweet, the possibility of a debate headache is high. Be prepared with Excedrin. It's cute, but of course, after watching the debate, we know the real winner was NyQuil, sweet darkness of sleep. It's your only escape.
And it's become a tradition for the candidates to show up and tell jokes, like a roast. In 2012, President Obama sat with Mitt Romney. They both joked around. In 2008, Obama and John McCain joked. Tonight, Hillary and Donald were one seat apart, with Cardinal Timothy Dolan sitting between them, like an unhappy couple hoping to get their marriage annulled.
Now, last night he debated Hillary Clinton for the third and final time, and the stakes were very high. In the last few weeks, he's plummeted in the polls. He's lost endorsements from Republican leaders, and now when he shouts, "Here, boy," Chris Christie hardly ever comes.
Of course, Hillary Clinton, let's be fair. I mean, Hillary Clinton had her moments. Here's what she said about her tax plans.
We are going to go where the money is.
And she knows where the money is. It's where she gives her speeches.
Headlines and punchlines from last night as we welcome you back into America Talks Live, inviting you to join our conversation at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. And again, we welcome our guests back here on the National Anchor Desk with me, Glen Downs, former Chief of Staff to Congressman Walter B. Jones of North Carolina, and from Newsmax Washington, Mark Smith, Senior Fellow in Law and Public Policy at King's College in New York City. And he's also a New York Times best-selling author. Gentlemen, today WikiLeaks released more Hillary Clinton emails revealing yet more corruption during her time at the State Department. Apparently another quid pro quo scheme. Clinton solicited a $12 million donation from the government of Morocco. In exchange for that donation, Hillary promised to hold a convention and appear as the keynote speaker. But she backed out, sent Bill and Chelsea instead after she realized, quote, it would make a mess of her run for the presidency. Hey, Mark, quid pro quo, those of us who have been in public office know that's kryptonite. If you
Right.
want to serve, she apparently has, everything comes in a lead-lined purse or something. She never, ever gets in trouble for this stuff. Is there a new standard where unless you have video, forget emails, the dominant media culture is not going to talk about it?
Look, this is another example of Hillary Clinton conflating her private financial interests with the public interest of the United States. So a decision to go to Morocco to hold a conference is dictated by how much money she and her family or her foundation are going to personally be receiving. And I think this is what the Clintons have been doing, and this is how they've got rich, by virtue of trading on their access to government, not because of what's in the best interest of the public, but what's actually in their financial interest. But you know what's funny, JD, is I thought this was kind of amusing because, of course, looking at the emails that I saw this morning, Hillary said that if you give us the money, I'll be the keynote speaker at the conference in Morocco. But then it turns out she backed out and had somebody else show up. It's another promise she's made, apparently, that she can't fulfill. So not only does she lie to the American public, it sounds like maybe she's even like lying to the Moroccans.
Well, yes, there is untruth abounding. The truth of our time here together is this is America Talks Live, so we want to hear from America, those who join us at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629. On the line from Las Vegas is Sonia. Hi, Sonia.
How are you, JD?
Hey.
Listen, I called today because I've got a beef, okay? And my beef is this, JD. I think that some of these posters are going overboard. Even Zalby, the other day, I was looking at him yesterday. He's practically trying to just about give the election to Clinton. Listen, we have not voted yet. I haven't voted yet. And as I remember in 1980, let's jog the Americans' public. 10 days up until the election, these people had Jimmy Carter 10 points up.
Yep, you're making a good point.
Reagan,
You're making a good point.
Reagan blew him out of the park.
Amen.
We are forgetting the Christian community in this country. They do not like Clinton, and last time they did not vote. They're coming out this time in massive load to defeat this woman. Please, these posters need to shut up.
Well, we appreciate, Sonia, your passion and your very valid observation. Glen Downs, to be fair to John Zogby today, when I asked him about the swing state polls, he said, it proves nothing. It just means this point in time, Mrs. Clinton may enjoy a lead. But there's something else going on here that I think Sonia is speaking out about here. We have talked so much about a hidden conservative vote for Donald Trump. We talk about the Brexit models of polling over in the United Kingdom. What is your take? Do you believe there is underpolling of the Trump vote?
Yeah, I do, for a couple of reasons. One is, I think, because of the relentless negative press, there are people who are, some number, who will not fess up to voting for Trump when they're asked by a pollster or maybe by their neighbors, but they're going to do it when they get into the voting booth. And then, but also, all of these polls rely on turnout models. They don't poll everybody when they take polls. They think they know in advance who is going to actually show up, which kinds of people from which kinds of groups. So that Brexit vote and the vote that he referenced in Colombia over a peace deal between the rebels and the government there were just badly wrong. But in this country, in the last two election cycles, the 2016, with the 2014 election cycle and the 2012 election cycle, the polling numbers have been really, really bad. The turnout models and the way they contact voters is something's really amiss. So it's very, very possible that there is a underpolling on behalf of Donald Trump, but we're about to find out, obviously.
Yeah, in 18 days' time.
But JD,
go ahead very
I would
quickly,
add,
Mark.
JD, I think Glenn makes good points, but I think it almost gives too much credit to the polling that's taken place here. The fact is that you have Republican pollsters, Democratic pollsters, and media pollsters for a simple reason, that these are not objective in the least. They're subjective. It's not like 2 + 2 = 4. So the fact is that the whole polling mechanism is really a dark art. There's no predictability, and I've said this before, JD. If the only polls I believe are this, if it is a part of the exhibit that's the poll that's disclosed has a $10,000 check that shows that money was put down by this pollsters in the political gambling markets in the UK to say, based on this poll, I'm betting on Hillary or I'm betting on Donald. If there's no money behind it, I don't trust it at all in terms of predicting the outcome. Because if they're not willing to put their money where their mouth is, I don't trust the polls at all. It's all about entertainment and giving us something to talk about. But in terms of predictability, I think it's nothing like that.
All right, fair enough, Mark. Let's go back to the phones where it's predictable that people have some strong passions about what will take place in 18 days. To Cincinnati for Albert. Hi, Albert.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
I think there's a major point that's being missed, and I haven't heard anybody say it. I think we should concede that Hillary is right, that the Russians have in fact been hacking in. The problem with that whole argument is they couldn't have done it if her email system had been on a secure line. So the fact is, if she's right, she's admitting to giving all her stuff to the Russians.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting point, and Glenn, it was something I was frustrated with Donald Trump about when this whole topic came up. I said, gee, why didn't he go straight to the emails? But in a more serious, well, that's a serious point that Albert brings up, but what we always see from the left is the notion of projection. And so saying the Russians are involved, and trying to bring in Homeland Security, it sounds to me like it's kind of setting up a construct for the things the left wants to get done in terms of tabulating the election results.
Well, you think you're probably onto something there, and it will be very interesting to see as much pressure as you've seen in the last couple of days to get Donald Trump to concede that he will accept the results of the election, no matter what irregularities might exist or perceived irregularities might exist. It would be very interesting when the votes are tallied, Mr. Trump comes out ahead. Will the Democrats stick to that, or will they then turn around? Will the Russians somehow monkeyed with the election system?
Listen, I want to go to one more caller because a former constituent, or at least an area I used to represent in Congress, out to Sun Lakes, Arizona. I believe Syra's on the line. Welcome to America Talks Live, Syra.
Hello, JD.
Hey.
I've been listening and trying to get into you.
Well, we're so happy to have you, Thyra. Now, what's on your mind? We got less than a minute.
You remember the lewd message that come out on Trump?
Yes, ma'am.
He was actually, it interviewing for a spot on Days of Your Life.
Yeah, it is like a soap opera, Thyra. Thanks so much. Let me give the last word to Mark. You know, the news cycle, Mark, changes as John Zogby was mentioning. That whole Access Hollywood tape, does that become a distant memory by Election Day? About 15 seconds, Mark.
I think it's already a distant memory because Donald Trump, intentionally or otherwise, by saying that he's not going to accept the results of the outcome of the election automatically without a review, has caused the entire mainstream media to spend all their time in the last 48 hours talking about, ready, voter fraud.
How about
which is
that?
actually an issue that Republicans are concerned about, and it's actually something that helps American
Very
integrity.
good. Mark,
so we're no
thanks.
longer talking
Glenn, thank you.